Hey, ioStux here. Before we get into this video, I quickly want to invite you to join our Discord server. You can talk about the game, ask for VOD reviews, or find teams and scrims. You can check the link in the description. In the background, you can see a game I played on my secondary account with around half my usual sensitivity. I hope that the video helps illustrate the point I want to make today. Recently I have changed my mouse to an EC1A by Zowie, which is a really great mouse by the way, as long as you have large hands. And I noticed something. While my sensitivity and DPI stayed the same, playing the game felt odd at first. When comparing my tracer VODs before I got the mouse and after, I noticed something interesting. My aim got kind of lazy. I got interested in this topic and looked around the internet, and I found out that a lot of people have experienced something similar when switching over to heavier or larger mice. I didn't want to change my sensitivity because I have been using it for a while and I was afraid that it might screw over with my muscle memory, so I just stuck with it for a while. But watching VOD after VOD kept showing me that my playstyle on Tracer got super lazy. By lazy I mean that I would subconsciously stand further away from enemies and be more hesitant about blinking to the side of them or through them, because it would mean that I would have to move my mouse a lot. Because the EC1A is both a lot larger and a lot heavier than my old mouse, by around 2 centimeters and 15 grams, it was harder for me to move it around, so making big turns was more of a hassle compared to my old, more nimble mouse. I knew that staying in front of the enemies and not using blinks as tracer was bad, but in the heat of battle, I couldn't actively do anything about it. I was more focused on staying out of the enemy's line of sight while giving calls to my team, meaning that I had no mental resources left to think about my movement. Another thing I noticed was that when I was playing McCree, I was never checking my surroundings. Beforehand, I would move my crosshair from corner to corner, sometimes I would look above me to check for Pharahs or Genjis, sometimes I would check to the sides in case there is a flanker. With this more lazy aim, I wasn't doing that automatically anymore. If I didn't actively think about it, I wasn't doing it. All the instincts that I built up over time were gone. If I could actively think about my movement and aim, like in the practice range for example, then I didn't face these issues. I was flying past enemies, making large 180-degree flicks when blinking through them, and all worked well, but as soon as my mind was busy with other stuff, I would fall back to the bad habits. So eventually I knew that I had to change something. I increased my sensitivity by 25%, even though I was scared that it might screw over with my muscle memory. And oh boy, it did, but not forever. After playing a couple games with the new sensitivity, I got used to it. I compared my VODs of the new sensitivity with those of my old sensitivity, and I could immediately see the differences. I was a lot more aggressive with my blinks, I was standing a lot closer to enemies, thus dealing more damage, and I would overall play a lot more aggressive and thus more effective. I think that you could learn from my experience, and that of others as well. When looking at the sensitivities of pro players, people are always inclined to just blindly copy them, thinking that it has to be good because, hey, this guy makes a living playing with that sense, so if it's good enough for him, it sure as hell is good enough for me. But it's also important to think about your personal setup. While a lower sensitivity worked really well for me with the light and small mouse, I needed to increase it with a more hefty mouse, or else my autopilot was being super lazy. What I want to achieve here is to let you guys know that a low sensitivity isn't always better than a higher one. Lower sensitivities are more consistent and more precise, but higher sensitivities support more aggressive playstyles, and especially in the heat of battle, it can make quick turns a lot more second nature. I am now back to a sensitivity that feels more comfortable. By the way, I went from 1600 DPI and 2 cents to now 1600 DPI and 2.5 cents. And even though it is higher than what I had before, I didn't get any less precise. I don't get as lazy if I play for long periods of time, and instead of doing the easiest play to execute, I now execute the best possible play, which has helped immensely with my personal play. So in conclusion, don't be afraid of increasing your sensitivity. Accuracy and consistency is not everything that you need to consider when choosing a sensitivity. You also have to factor in how comfortable you are making big and fast turns with it, because it will help you be more annoying with characters like Genji or Tracer, and it will help you be more aware of your surroundings when playing someone like Soldier or McCree. I hope that this helped you. My name is ioStux, and I'd like to thank you for learning.